Welcome everyone, just as an update, there's no live stream, they're having some difficulties, but there will be a video to go up later and audio happening as well. Please, if anyone's got mobile phones, if they could have them turned down, please. So I declare the meeting open and welcome everyone present. Advise that the meeting will be digitally recorded in accordance with council policy. To assist in the preparation of minutes and allow the streaming, or won't be live streaming, to be put up at a later date. Okay. If we could be... Oh, yes, thank you. The Circular Council acknowledges the North West Tasmanian Aboriginal people as the traditional custodians of the country on which we stand, meet and play. We recognise their continuing connection to the land, waters and community. We pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. If we could be upstanding for prayer.
Tonight we pray to you who art Mother, Father to us all, for wisdom and clarity in discussion and debate. We ask that thy light and eternal grace shine in our hearts now and always. Thou who art one, although known by many names, and whose truth is expressed in many faiths.
Thank you. We're all in attendance, so there's no apologies and there's no leave of absences recorded. Confirmation of minutes. Can I have a mover and a seconder for the minutes of the last meeting, please? So, thanks Councillor Oldacre. Seconder. Thanks Councillor Collins. No debate, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Any declarations of interest? Okay, we'll move on to 4.0, which is the Mayor's Communications. Or 4.1, which is the Mayor's Communications. Any questions in regard to any of those? Councillor Hine?
Just the Advanced North West where you've declined. Is there a deputy that could have filled in for there, or wasn't it?
That was a situation where the Speaker was the manager of ASEAN, which was just prior to the last meeting with that up, so I decided that it was not appropriate to attend the meeting.
Yeah, the other one was on the Arthur Pyman. How did that go? Anything to report on that meeting?
It was a pretty standard meeting. There wasn't a real lot happened. The General Manager attended, and at the start of it they were querying again about Council taking on some of the responsibilities of some of the roads. The response is still the same, that if it's resource we could certainly help them, but until the resource is there, that won't be happening. Very politely put by the General Manager, I might add. But it was, that was pretty much, I did circulate to all councillors the opportunity. It was late, but come out of that meeting, they were down at the hut down there, and I think Councillor Popovsky might have went down. So I circulated that prior to that. So, but it was a pretty general meeting. There wasn't a lot happened at all.
No, Mr. Mayor, I did go. It was on short notice, and the information wasn't circulated to the users. But I spoke to John, and this is just the first. He was down there getting a recce, and was going to go over some of the roads, and he'll be back to talk to the users later on.
Yep. Thanks, Councillor Popovsky. Councillor Flowers.
So they want council to take over the road network down there. Is that what their ambitions are?
No. These were the Shacknode.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Them road.
They would prefer that, but they've been politely told that that's not going to occur.
That's good. Now, I've also been led to believe that they want to spend some of the $10 million that was allocated on road maintenance on them roads. Is that correct, or is
The 10 million, some of that $10 million was to bring the road, not the nose, but up to a standard. Some of that has been allocated to that, but that was always the case.
Could you tell me which roads they
No,
were?
I couldn't, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm happy to take that on notice.
Yep.
And come back to you at some stage, but I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Thanks.
Okay, no further questions. Could I have a mover and a seconder for those, please?
So moved.
Councillor Flowers and seconded Councillor Popovsky. No further, I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. No report by delegates. The council, 4.3, the council workshops are there. We've all been in attendance to all of those. Any questions on any of those? I think we've all been at all of them anyway. So if not, I can have a mover and a seconder for those as well. Move Deputy Mayor, seconded Councillor Hine. Put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. 5.1.1, question and response from Phil Critchlow. Oh, sorry, a question from Phil Critchlow with a response there. 5.1.2, a question from Sally Bird with an officer's response. 5.1.3, question from Alice Carson with the response. 5.2, public questions. Yes, sorry, Councillor Oldacre.
Just to bring you back, sir, you've missed a question.
I did?
Question 2, as you're going down.
I did. Thank you, Councillor Oldacre. Question 2 from Sally Bird is there as well with officer's response. Thanks, Councillor Oldacre. 5.2.1. Public questions received in writing. There's one from James West with a response to that.
Your Worship, if I may interrupt, I need a better reply to
There
that.
when questions come, you get the opportunity then, James.
Okay.
Please. Thank you. Through me. Right, so that's all. Oh, do I need a motion for those?
No, because
They're
they're
noted?
they're just noted. Yeah.
Right. Public questions without notice and public statements. What we're doing is changing this slightly, where we will allow for public statements or public questions, so we can have a 2-minute statement and one question, or we can have 2 questions. Once again, we expect and respect to be shown both ways. So if you have a statement and or a question, you can have 2 questions, 1 statement up for 2 minutes. If there's time left, there will be allowance for more. So if there's any statements/questions, please come to the microphone, state your name.
Right, good evening all, James West. My first question has caused quite a bit of kerfuffle in this community. We all know that you guys did your best with the Robbins Island approval. Okay, there's been about 6 parties that have lodged appeals against this. Now I realise that the first appeal that the CEO of ASIN lodged would be an automatic appeal no matter which way you guys voted. My question, you guys voted in accordance with your planning officer you're covered by your indemnity insurance for legal costs. Now, my question would be more or less to the General Manager. What happens with the other 5 appeals that have been lodged naming the council as co-respondent? Do we ratepayers have to fork out for the legal costs of that one, of those 5 other appeals, including Bob Brown's? Now, from what I gather, Bob Brown's appeal has gone to a direction hearing to be listed on the 21st of August, and the main appeal, which will take 2 to 3 weeks, is scheduled for around about October. Now, do we know who's going to be paying for the legal costs for those other 5 appeals?
Through you, Mr Mayor, respondents pay for their own legal costs. Respondents pay for their own legal costs. We don't pay the costs of anybody except our own representation.
What about when you guys defend the appeal?
Well, we are asked to go along to TASCAT and we will have legal representation and we will pay for those costs. We will not pay for the costs of anybody else.
No, but we ratepayers don't have to fork out for the costs of these.
No.
No, okay.
Do for ours, James. We do for ours, not for the others.
Okay.
Those costs are
Now, the
covered by
next
the money.
question I've got is, I
So-
believe,
And
Excuse
also,
James, excuse James, just a little bit more.
sorry,
on that.
the date you said of August is 21st of April, not
21st of April is the direction here.
Yes, you said August.
Yeah, then after the direction hearing, according to Bob Brown Foundation, they are hoping for the main appeal, the actual hearing will be roughly in October.
Yes, that's correct. I haven't heard the October date, but you said August, so I was just correcting you.
No, April.
Yes.
April, 21st of April, I beg your pardon.
Yeah, never mind. All right, moving
Okay,
on.
my second question, Councillor Oldacre.
Through me, please.
Through the chair. I noticed that Councillor Oldacre put in a very good suggestion about the no stopping signs in Davis Street. Great idea. The only problem being, we've got so many different parking signage all through our CBD, nobody gives a damn. So what's the point of sticking up these no standing signs in Davis Street when people just ignore them? Now, you yourself, Mr Mayor, or one of the councillors mentioned that each one of those signs cost $500 each when we were talking about Woolnorth. So what's the point of putting them up where Councillor Oldacre wants?
They won't, they don't necessarily, those signs don't necessarily cost $500. They're different types of signs.
Different types
But they will be put there. We've got safety issue there, so we've got to take our action accordingly. If there's an obvious breach of that and it's reported to the police, that's all we can do with that. We can set the things. We're not policemen. We can't enforce
Okay, well, that's
it.
the end of those 2 questions, Mr Mayor. I will have others if time
If
permits.
time permits. Thanks, James.
Just don't come up with a good suggestion. You're in with them.
So is there any further questions or? Yep.
My name's Robert Water, Commonwealth Public Office, and what I'm inquiring about, because 88 they had a referendum, and it said in there in the referendum that that local government don't exist. It was only 0.6%. So in other words, what are you fellas doing here? Because if you don't exist, how come you're here?
The simple answer is, Robert, we're here, we exist, and we're part of it. I'm not going to argue that with you.
Don't you ever, well, you fly the flag, the Commonwealth flag there, so why aren't you abiding by the Commonwealth Constitution?
I suggest we are. Simple answer, we are. Answered question. Thank you. Next one.
Yeah, like that. you turn around and you got, because you're not part of this government of this country, so what gives you the right to turn around and make decisions for people?
Robert, we're under a state legislation which we govern under and we operate under. That gives us the right.
Well, as the referendum in '88 has stated, that you don't exist
Robert, answered. Question answered.
with 0.6%,
Question answered.
and that's all it states.
Have you got any other question?
Was that-
Have you got another question? I've answered that one.
was that answered?
If you have got a question, Ben, you can come up and ask the question. Thank you. Is there any further questions or statements?
Yeah, Malcolm Stokes from Forest.
How are you, Malcolm?
Acknowledge the elders past and present. About 12 months ago I read to Greenham's board and just told them how using the image of Cape Grim and the name of Cape Grim being a sorry place and a place of massacre, how much it, is pretty distasteful and hurts. And I suggested to them coming to work with the Aboriginal people of Tassie and changing that. I hear that they did come down the board and came down and met with Jack and went down and looked at Cape Grim and everything and said that they'd, look at getting behind that. I was just wondering if that's something the council would get behind and be able to take to meetings such as Tourism Tasmania and that. We got lots of the Doughboys and heaps of good images, Premangana. It's, maybe you should just step away from using Cape Grim.
It's a commercial decision of them, and I honestly don't know where that's at, Malcolm. I really don't know.
I'll talk to Greenham's about that, but can the council take it to their meetings and support something like that? If you're meeting with Tourism Tasmania or Cradle Coast Authority or something like that, and they want to promote our area, is that something you can put forward on behalf of the Aboriginal locals that, use other things apart from Cape Grim?
I can't really answer the question that we do. I meet with Jack regularly. I'm quite happy to see where that went, but I've got no idea, Malcolm. I'm not privy to that conversation or that one you're talking about. Yep. So happy to ask the question of Jack of where that's at, but I don't know. Simply don't know.
Yep. Thank you.
But I'll come back to you. No other questions? James, you had another one? Yes, we'll take that.
Now, Mr Mayor, we discussed this, you and I, privately about Woolnorth and Montague. Recently I was out there talking to quite a few people. What Councillor Hine had mentioned about the trades and all that, we'll let that go for the moment. My main concern was there was one family there in particular who was requested not to be named. They were very badly affected by aerial spraying of Roundup for their acreage, and the gentleman concerned was quite ill. Now, this also is not only in that area. Our friend Mr. Ben Hall, I visited his property not long ago. The dust from that fertiliser factory, I had to wear a COVID mask and be able to breathe. Now, I know you councillors have been there, but you haven't been there when the event has happened. What I'm asking, is it possible, as a common courtesy to any person that buys a little home that may have been a farm homestead at one stage, that is in close proximity to where crops are grown, that the agriculturist that is growing this crop gives the resident that has bought this home, albeit a retirement home or whatever, a little notice, hey mate, I'm going to be spraying your crops, my crops. Can you do something to protect your water catchment, like put a tarp over your tank or hose down your roof afterwards? No such courtesy exists. Now, why is it people have to be poisoned? Why do people have to be poisoned by inconsiderate property owners?
James, I'm not sure precisely what the rules are, but if
Well,
and I
Mr.
respect-
Mayor, I trust you find out and
I
do
respect
something
your
about it.
comment that it's a private person, but if we don't know who that is, we cannot do nothing about it.
Well, EPA doesn't care, neither does the other mob.
But once again, if we don't know who it is, we cannot do nothing about it.
Can you find out who it is?
If they come to us, we can, yeah.
Well, who's responsible for advising residents that they're spraying toxic chemicals?
Not us, the person who's spraying.
The person who's spraying it is responsible,
Yeah.
but we know nothing of it, apart from what you're saying now, and you're not giving a
You
name.
certainly
So
know enough about this.
Mr Hunt is a different situation. He's been informed of what the next process is there.
And he also tells me he's received no reply from the General Manager about when the General Manager wrote to the appropriate authorities.
Mr Hunt has been advised of what his next actions can be.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there no further questions? Okay, thank you. We will move on. .0 Planning Authority, nil received. 7.1, no responses required. 7.2, none in writing. 7.3, councillor questions without notice.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My question results, and you might have to take it on notice, is my understanding is that the wind farm at Woodletta was approved just over 2 years ago. Where is that at right now? And if it's over that 2-year period, does that have to come back to council?
General Manager.
Yes, I think, Councillor, I'll have to take that on notice. It must be close to the end of that period, but we'll have to take that on notice and get back to you on that one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Debner? Yep.
Through you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like Council to acknowledge the contribution of the Archer family up at Smithton Better Home Living. Dean, June, Francis, Hattie and Asher the super dog up there. The Tarkine Progress Group had been working for a good while to get an ATM secured for Smithton, and we'd had a few false starts, but when it was raised with them, they were, straight off the bat, quick to get onto that. Less than 2 days, they had it all signed up and progressing, and I believe the ATM went in today. So that's just a good result for the town. I'd just like the council to acknowledge the Archers and what they've done for the community there. There's very little benefit for them to do it, so thank you to them.
Thanks, Councillor Dabney. I agree. We should acknowledge that. Also, as you mentioned, the Progress Group, the group involved in that, and yourself for that matter as well. Thanks, Councillor Dabney. We have an ATM in town again, and we'll have going forward. It's not absolutely perfect, but it's something, and it's there, and the work that's gone into it is greatly appreciated, and the Archers as well. So we'll get some acknowledgement to them. Thanks. Further questions, Councillor Deputy Mayor? Sorry.
Mr Mayor, I was wondering if you're aware that some valued community residents that have lived here their entire adult lives are relocating at the end of this week. Mr and Mrs Saywood, I'm not sure if you know.
I did find out just recently.
Recently?
Yes.
So I would like to acknowledge Keith and Patricia Saywood for their many voluntary contributions to the Circular Head community. They're relocating to Launceston in the next few days, and on behalf of Council, I'd like to thank them for their many years of bringing joy to the community through their involvement with the Smithton Carols by Candlelight events, Smithton Primary School singers and instrumentalists, and for establishing, through their church, the Treasure Chest store in Emmett Street. which has successfully given back to community by supporting many families in need. I'm sure the people of Circular Head appreciate their contributions and their many voluntary hours spent bringing music to our community events, and wish them every happiness in the next chapter of their lives. Just wanted to make mention of that. They leave at the end of this week.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor, and I endorse. I never had a lot to do with the Saywards, but I did have a bit when we was running a Rotary conference, and we used the centre down there for the conference.
Yep.
And Keith was a great deal of help for us as we organised and set up there. So I endorse and acknowledge that. Any further questions? Not, thank you. We will move on to 8.0, notice of motions nil. 9.1, financial report.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
You'll go.
Councillors, before you we have the quarterly financial reports for the period ended the 31st of December. Not sure, I think this might be the first time that this one has been tabled since last year's election, so this will be the new councillors' first time seeing these. And then generally they're split into our functional areas, so like transport, solid waste, parks, etc. They're fairly detailed, and it's basically exactly what comes out of our finance system. So really I'm not going to go through them because they're long and detailed, but I'll take any questions, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Rachel. Any questions on the quarterly finances? We'll do the monthly ones after. Councillor Poposki.
Mr Mayor, just firstly the notes, the footnotes are really handy to go through. If I can, just for old men probably, are we able to swing the Excel spreadsheet down so 22-23 is next to the item? And because you've got to spin across, spin around, so then you can work back to previous years.
Yep,
it's only an administrative thing.
Yep.
It just makes life easy.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Poposki. Any more queries or questions on those? We'll do 9.2 before we take, which is the period one, before we take a motion on those.
You probably should do them separately.
Do them separately,
We've got
right?
two different recommendations.
Thank you. We'll do them separately. So we're going to have a mover for the quarterly report, please.
So moved.
Councillor Poposki, seconded. Councillor Flowers. I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thanks, Rachel. Next one.
That's all right. So thanks, Mr Mayor. Councillors, we have next up the financial report for the period ended 28th of February. We received no applications for first homeowners grants, acknowledging 4 in total for this financial year. We have the closing funds for the special committees listed, page 51. We also have the income statement with the budget year to date looking pretty good compared to, actually year to date looking good compared to year to date budget. Which is a new thing that we've put in the last couple of months, so that it should give you a better idea instead of just looking at, say, the end of February compared to the full year budget. It's actually been profiled and put in there as it would occur each month. So the big outlier there is really the interest we've received in our bank accounts compared to a lower budget compared to the last couple of years. In terms of the statement of financial position, at the workshop last week we talked about community equity, and so the balance at this point in time is of around 250 million, which is made up of all those assets and liabilities. On to the next one, which is statement of cash flows, current cash balance of 12.7 million. In terms of debtors, we've currently got 6.15% outstanding compared to 6.76 at the same time last year. We're now on page 55. And debtors owed to council is 363 compared to 1.1 at the same time last year. Then have the bank reconciliation with where our investments are at, and I know there's a note there to say that we have received some offers through that Duncan will be putting in now. and the cash and investments graph to show comparisons compared to the last couple of years. So I'll present those reports for Council's consideration, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Rachel. Questions to Rachel? Yes, Councillor Pilkington.
Just wondering, in the balance brought forward from the 1st of July 21, is that the correct date, or is it?
Is that in the rates?
It's bank reconciliation, cash bank, and it's top of
No,
two.
it's not. That should be 22.
Right, that's fine.
Don't forget to stand over. Sorry.
Yeah, no, wrong one.
Any further questions? If not, can I have a mover for those?
The recommendations.
Thanks, Councillor Oldacre. Seconded, Councillor Pilkington. I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Investment 9.3, Investment Council Funds Policy and Guidelines Review.
Thanks again, Mr Mayor. Councillors, before you we have a periodic review of council policies, and the investment policy is due. Also, in terms of, there's been some discussion around whether council wants to put some funds into the local Bendigo Community Bank as well too. So it was probably timely that we had a review. So what a policy is a position of the council that is not in legislation. So it's providing staff with a direction that's not provided by any other means. So it sets your direction for us to follow as staff. So the policy direction on this one is, or the policy statement is, that council invests funds to maximise return on investments whilst maintaining acceptable level of risk. So that's what the council's aim of the policy actually is. Then we've got what's called a guideline underneath, which actually sets out the parameters of what council staff follow. Probably the main part of the guideline is on page 61, where it actually outlines Standard & Poor's ratings levels for investment types and the risk associated with that. It says there any products with more risk than a term deposit are to be approved by the council. So where staff can't invest in anything other than a term deposit. I suppose the big thing at the moment is we only generally use the big four banks, and the Bendigo Bank has been in discussions, but that would actually fall into a triple B category, with a maximum of $2 million being able to be invested in that. Where I suppose it is for council's consideration is that would only provide a government guarantee, which I think is 15% up to 250, somewhere between 250 and 300,000, which is actually guaranteed, and this policy allows up for $2 million. So it's really a decision of the council whether you wish for that to happen and what your risk appetite actually is for that. So I will pass that over to you, Mr Mayor, for some discussion, no doubt.
We'll start with any questions to Rachel on the report before I ask for a mover. Is there any questions on that? Councillor Pilkington, yes?
Rachel, can you explain the difference between the guarantees? What is the guarantee for the AA triple, well, the superior ratings and the other ratings? Is there a guarantee for the Bendigo Bank but less, or is there no guarantee for the Bendigo Bank?
I think it would be the same. It's the same, but it's just more of the risk of the whole entire organisation as a whole. So, yeah. I must say that in terms of the triple B category, I've had a look at the Bendigo Bank, and it is an Australian, I think it's Bendigo and Adelaide Bank Company, which is a listed company on the stock exchange. And I've just looked at their quarterly or 6 monthly year-to-date figures, and they were in the hundreds of millions of profit, and their ratios looked okay and things like that as well too. So it's I probably can't provide you any more than that. It's more just an appetite thing about whether you wish to support something like the Bendigo Community Bank in this. We haven't had any other discussions about any other banks, but that's probably been the main one in terms of providing things back into our community via grants and things like that as well too. So
I can add a little bit with the government guarantees come around or got adjusted with the global financial crisis, and they were the 250 to 300,000 on any approved body, Example, back then in Bradley Investments didn't have that because we weren't such a body that the banks and other credit unions may have been. And they're all the same, it's across the board. If they're, I can't think of the term now, but if they're an accredited facility institution, yeah. So it'll be the same. Any other questions, Councillor Hine?
Yeah, just a question on confidentiality. Should I leave the room because I'm a unit trust holder of the community bank, and so therefore you're looking at...
Question? I don't think so, because if you go, I got to go.
Yeah, that's right.
Vanessa, you probably all help us here.
I'm just thinking.
I own 1,000 shares in the community bank, not the Bendigo and Adelaide bank.
That's right. That's where I'm at.
But,
I never thought of it. Thanks, Tony.
yeah, I didn't think of that either. Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Shareholders, but you're not on the board of directors, though.
No.
It's still potentially a pecuniary interest, though, because it's $100 attached to it, maybe.
Only if you're on the board.
I think it's only if you're on the board, isn't
Yes,
it?
and your decision making. Although you do vote.
You wouldn't vote on the decision of council to invest, though.
No, you wouldn't.
No.
No, I
It
think
would be
if
voting
you-
on the annual accounts.
I'm comfortable, given on the principle, if in doubt, get out.
Yep.
I'm comfortable with that if
I think
if you prefer that.
Yeah, I
I
think
also have
Yep.
an interest there.
Your husband's on the board, but I don't think how that...
So I
Well,
don't
yes,
know.
that
Well,
would-
it
that
does,
would-
it does, I'm afraid,
that
because
would-
it's your
yeah.
husband.
So
I did
Right.
mention that ages ago.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
no,
before you
that's
came
fine.
on.
we'll get out and then
Yep.
you'll have to get someone to chair
Yeah.
for a short period of time.
So let's just,
Yes,
Mr. Mayor, is it something we have to make a decision on tonight? I mean, I think it's important that we're all here for this, probably, if there's no conflict of interest.
we can't
Potentially
be,
potentially
but
is.
because me and Tony own shares
and
in the
Annette's
community
on the
bank,
board.
and Annette's husband's on the board,
So
well, no
Annette,
matter when we have it, we'll have to...
Annette's
we'll
got
have
a non-pecuniary interest and
and
you
we've
two
got
have got a pecuniary
potential
interest. So,
yeah.
yes.
I never thought of it, I
No,
apologise.
and I didn't realise everybody would have those connections either,
the-
but you did mention it, you're right, Annette.
This is just a policy
It's
debate, so I reckon if we go, someone sits in the chair, or...
Yep, you go and
Yep.
I'll sort that
You sort
out.
that out.
Councillors, you now need to decide amongst yourselves who will take the chair temporarily.
I nominate John.
Yeah, John.
He's the oldest.
And if we did something wrong.
Yes. Right, councillor, would you kindly come up to the front and take charge of
Been waiting for this moment.
your fellows?
He's got to look important with his glasses.
That's not going to help him, I don't think.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Council. We've heard what goes on here and what the recommendations are. Would somebody like to move the recommendations that are before us?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Abner. A seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Collins. Does anybody wish to debate the issue? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against?
Aye.
You only done that on purpose. No.
I was going to speak.
Well, I asked
No,
you.
yeah, that's okay. Come on, come on.
Yeah, you're given the opportunity.
Yeah, gave him an opportunity. Okay, the motion is carried.
Thank you.
Rivers on the go.
Yeah, you fixed it.
No.
Given it as a way of getting money back into the community.
Yeah, that's what it is. The other one through that representing the community, and that's all the others.
The rest are deserters.
Yeah, so let's look after these.
Thank you, councillors, and apologies for not thinking of that earlier. So, we're up to 9.4, Senior Manager Report. GM?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm actually going to hand straight over to Deb because the community items are of the most interest this time round.
Thank you, Vanessa. Councillors, we've had the community grants. I'll be providing a report later in the agenda. We had a wonderful International Women's Day breakfast on the 8th of March. We had some, I think there was over 100 ladies and gentlemen come along for that, so it was great. We had some inspiring speakers and some wonderful entertainment, so it was a very successful event, so it was great. Harmony Week starts on the 20th, it's between the 20th and the 26th of March. This year, for cultural reasons and being inclusive, we'll be holding our normal event probably later in April. So we'll name that like a Community Connections event. But we will be holding a free barbecue outside Rural Health on the 21st of March, and that's to mark International Day for Elimination of Racial Discrimination.
May I ask what cultural reason?
Yes, you may, Councillor. Sorry, I should have said. It's actually the beginning of Ramadan on the 22nd of March, and that goes for 30 days. So, and our Pakistani community were heavily involved in our event last year, so we certainly want to make sure that they have the opportunity again this year.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah. During February, we had Feel Good February, which we had some free events that just kindness and wellness, which was really good. We also had a motivational speaker and a suicide attempt survivor, Matt Caruana. He was at the community centre for a forum last week, and there was about 120 people there, I think. He also visited both the Christian school and the high school as well. We had Ben come from Relationships Australia to talk about our community action plan. That's to discuss suicide prevention in our community, and we had some of our councillors there as well, so we're grateful for that. So Ben now will develop the plan from all the feedback that we've received from the community, and then with the local government, Legat providing $5,000, once we developed a plan, we'll be able to then put some things in action with that money, so that will be really good. As you've probably already been aware, we have launched the Community Connections Guide, so that's available now, particularly on our website, so that's there. The youth, you've got the minutes from CHIL as well as from our Youth Advisory Council, and there's some good projects happening over at the Stanley Recreation Ground that are on track, so things are going okay there. So that's it. Thank you, Vanessa. Unless there's any more questions.
Thanks. Yes, any questions to Deb? Or Vanessa, of course, is Senior Manager's report. No question. Could I have a mover for the report, please?
So moved.
Thanks, Councillor Poposky, seconded Councillor Flowers. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you.
Mr Mayor, just to bring things to order just a little bit, I have noticed we've all got a bit lackadaisical. When we do speak, we are supposed to stand, regardless of what it was, and I've seen two while you was out, sir, and one just then. I think we need to just stick to the protocols.
Thanks, Councillor Olega.
I'm not trying to be pedantic, but...
Right.
But you are.
9.5. So, submission to the Senate inquiry, General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The submission hasn't changed a great deal from the one presented at the workshop, but you will see at the end, under conclusion, that I have incorporated the suggestions that you made at the workshop and the invitation that you asked me to extend. As that's all, the content hasn't changed otherwise, I put the commender report.
Okay, is there any questions on that? We have workshops, but is there any questions to the General Manager on that? If not, could I have a mover, please? Thanks, Councillor Holaker, and I like your example. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Community grants. Deb?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Councillors, I'm presenting the Community Small Grants Scheme for 2022-2023, Round 2, report to approve the 4 recommended applications. That being the Rocky Cape Public Hall, requesting $1,000 to purchase 20 tables for use at community markets and at other functions held at the hall. The Circular Head Aboriginal Corporation are requesting $2,880 to provide 3 at-risk youth to the opportunity to attend the JCP Youth Camp. The camps focus on personal and social responsibility and growth over a 20-week period. The Circular Head Boat Club requesting $2,240 to purchase and install some security cameras at the marina due to vandalism. And also the Circular Head Football Association are requesting $3,000 for sports training course to upskill volunteers in the local affiliated football clubs. I think that equates to two representatives from each club, so eight people there. So the total of the grant funding, $9,120. So, councillors, I table that for your consideration.
We've workshopped these pretty well, but is there any questions to Deb on that? Any of those? If not, could I have a mover then, please?
So moved.
Councillor Ollier, seconded Councillor Hine. Anyone wish to speak for or against? Well, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you, councillors. Park relinquished Crown lease. Montague Park, General Manager again.
Actually,
sorry.
This one, Mr. Mayor.
Apologise. Rachel's going for best on ground.
Yes, I am tonight. Thank you very much. And doing a fine effort, but I am too. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, before you we have a report that is requesting the relinquishing of part of Council's lease at Montague Park. So the current lease we have with the Crown is in 3 titles, which don't actually have title numbers, but they are in 3 parcels. The main one on the map there is what we have with the Montague Park Campground, which is further sublet. The 2 items or the 2 parcels in purple are the ones that are actually being requested to be relinquished for a third party that has an interest in it. So we currently don't use that space, and it's been discussed with the lessee, and it's not required either, which has been workshopped with councillors as well. So the recommendation is that council notifies the Crown to relinquish those 2 parcels of land from their current lease. So I'll present the report for council's consideration, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Rachel. Any questions to Rachel? Again, we had a workshop on that. Well, if not, I will. Have I got a mover? Councillor Collins, you'll get in trouble. Councillor Collins, Councillor Pilkington. Does anyone wish to speak for or against? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. 9.8 is a series of minutes, so we'll go through the minutes and move them all in one. We can do that, can't we? In one lot. The first is Circular Head Community Recreation Centre. Is there any?
Just a question on that, if I can.
You can certainly, Councillor Hine.
It's the noise, that your bones.
They good? Do you have a deputy? Because you're an apology there for that.
That's an old one.
It's November.
I've been replaced.
Mr. Mayor, just to add to that, this meeting was on the 14th of December. I think that's the one, and it was their annual meeting. I don't know where Councillor Blizzard was, but I had a previous engagement, a dinner arrangement up the coast, so that's why we both were missing out of that. But we haven't missed any since, except last night. There was an apology because I had a meeting last night and we was otherwise occupied.
I'm not a part of that group anymore, so the December one, I can't remember, I might have apologised because it was the annual meeting, but that's Councillor Oldacre's committee now. Then we go to the Tarkine Progress Group, which I'm certainly a part of now, or the council rep. Any questions or queries on that? I've got the Swirl monthly report. Same thing. November and December briefing paper. Some public correspondence there.
Oh, sorry, that's the next item.
That's the next item, sorry. Stop, Jared. Thank you. So can I then, if there's no more questions on 9.8.1, which is all the minutes and reports, could I have a mover for those?
Just before you move on to the mover, have we got a copy of the annual meeting of the CHCRC? And have we got a copy of the President's report? As we've requested that all subcommittees provide the President's report for Council.
CHCRC, the annual meeting.
You said the 14th was annual.
I did. That's correct.
Mr Mayor, the Recreation Centre Committee is not a subcommittee of the Council, so it's not a special committee of Council. The Outdoor Area Management Committee is, but the CRC is not.
Good.
Because sorry Mr Mayor, what you were saying is that you requested that before for our subcommittees, but they're not a subcommittee.
But I'm sure that
I don't think it's
Chairman Kay would have a problem in, wouldn't have a problem in providing his report. I'm happy to ask him for it, so I'm sure he wouldn't have a problem with it.
I'll go into correspondence, Mr Mayor.
Next agenda, yep. All I can do is remember to do it.
Yeah.
Right, so now did I move in a second of all the minutes? 9.8.1. Councillor Hine, thank you. Councillor Flowers, thank you. No further debate, or no debate? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Public correspondence, 9.8.2. There's a couple there from Margaret and Robert Smith and from the Umgroves. They're the same, but signed by different people.
Just a generic letter, looks like.
Oh, yeah, one's done it and got the other one to sign it, I'd suggest, without knowing. That's fine, they can do that. Any questions on that? Can I then have a mover and a seconder that we receive those, please? Or acknowledge those. Councillor Oldacre, seconded Councillor Dabner. I don't imagine there's any debate, so I'll put the motion. Sorry, there is some debate. Apologise, Councillor Pilkington.
There's not debate. We should note these letters, and when we deal with it, bring them up again.
Yeah, happy to do that.
Yep, happy to do that. Well, they're noted by the fact that they're in the agendas,
But when we deal with it again, we should remember them.
Yep. Okay, thank you, Councillor Pilkington.
Yep.
General Manager's got a note on that. So no further any other debate. I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
No.
Against? Carried. Thank you. So I just need now
Need a motion that the matter's listed.
Yep. Can I have a mover for the matters listed for?
So moved.
Thanks, Councillor Oldacre. Seconded. Councillor Collins. Put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. And then I need a motion to close, don't I? Now, can I have a mover and a second that we close the public section? Deputy Mayor and Councillor Flowers. Put the motion, those in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried.
Right.